A very good evening, everyone who are with us in this webinar today. We wish everyone is safe and healthy during these trying times. My name is Naresh Pal, and I'm the Program Director at TCS Ion Direct Channel, and your host for today's session. It's my pleasure to welcome each one of you to a very significant webinar on careers in aviation industry. Did you often get fascinated by airplanes in your childhood? Does it feel exhilarating to have a job in an altitude of 39,000 feet from the ground? Although the job roles and lives of the pilot and air hostess seem fancy and uber cool, the career path in the aviation industry is not too straightforward. The aviation sector is one of the most attractive and best paid sectors in the world. Indian civil aviation industry is the third largest domestic civil aviation market in the world. Working in the aviation industry needs the utmost passion and dedication towards the job and its job roles. So, if you have a dream to work in this industry, then the session is very fruitful for you. To understand more about careers in aviation industry, we have with us a special guest, Ms. Radhika Bhandari, Director at Western India Institute of Aeronautics Private Limited. It's my pleasure and honor to welcome and to introduce our speaker today. Ms. Radhika is a young aviation enthusiast. She holds her undergraduate degree in metallurgical engineering and her post-graduation in management from Warwick Business School, United Kingdom. A Western Indian Institute of Aeronautics Private Limited, she is an integral part of the management as a director and the director of Ahmedabad Aviation Aeronautics Limited. She is also the Dean of Aviation Faculty at Indus University. She is trained Bharatanatyam dancer, rifle shooter and horse rider. Ms. Bhandari is passionately curious about the vast heritage of India's intellectual traditional knowledge system. So a very warm welcome, Ms. Radhika ma'am, onto the show.
Thank you so much, Mr. Naresh. Thank you.
So my first question to you, Radhika, all are eager to know how you started this aviation industry journey and how has it been so far? Over to you.
Thank you. So that's a very interesting question, Mr. Naresh. For me, a great source of inspiration to enter into this field has been my father. He is a spine surgeon by profession and he's also an educationist. And he went on to pursue his childhood dream of flying aircrafts eventually and acquiring a private pilot license. So his passion for technicality and aviation has greatly influenced me to make my mark into this field. As you know, I did my engineering in metallurgy, an area where usually male was in majority. But as I was always interested in understanding fundamentals, and metallurgy was one of those fields where you learn all about metals, and that is the backbone of aviation industry. So it also made me explore the different manufacturing processes of various industries. So for example, during my metallurgy study, I learned about the honeycomb composite material that goes into building out the wings of an aircraft, the rudder, the floorboards, or the cabin baggage compartment as well. Now, this background eventually helped me to understand the aviation industry from scratch. Now, I'm a big advocate of multidisciplinary skills, and my upbringing has been done in a manner wherein I have been encouraged to pursue multiple skills in a balanced manner. So, for example, as you've already mentioned, I learned to be a Bharatanatyam dancer, but at the same time, I also explored rifle shooting and horse riding. Now, connecting this with the aviation industry, I am of the mindset that even if you do not possess any particular aviation degree, diploma, or a license course, if you're truly dedicated and passionate about this field, there are multiple entry points for you, and that you can also bring on the table along with your existing skill set. Another point which really motivated me to get into this field was when I found out that for us Indians, we have the highest proportion of female commercial pilots in any country, and that is 13%. And the global average is only about 5%. So with this intention, I got into this field to give my contribution in other aviation fields. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Radhika, for this to take us through your journey. Now, my next question is, could you please tell our viewers about the various aspects of the aviation industry, such as airline industry, aircraft manufacturing, research companies, military aviation, airline management, and so on?
Absolutely, Mr. Naresh. So, within the aviation sector, there are mainly two categories of flight. One is civil, and the second is military. So, in civil, in simple terms, basically it refers to all aviation that is connected to commercial and general aviation. Now, this includes both private and commercial air travel, regardless of whether flights are carrying passengers, cargo, or a combination of both. Now, in civil aviation, it includes commercial aviation, and that is basically where flights are scheduled and operated for money or cargo transportation. Now, in airlines, there are three different levels. One is international, second is national, and the third is regional. And now talking about general aviation, that covers personal or more so as the business transport. And that is not through an airline, but by mostly a privately owned jet. Now, under this, we can take, for example, there's private flying, flight training, air ambulance, aerial survey, mapping, aerosports, seaplanes, etc. Now, the second aspect in aviation, and also I would like to share a very interesting fact that India's domestic civil aviation market, it is the third largest in the world and with the largest 20-year GDP growth forecast. So that's an amazing opportunity for us and especially Indians to get into this field. Now I would like to focus on the military aviation. So the use of military aircraft or other flying machines for events such as cargo transportation or aerial combat. So this includes fighters, bombers, interceptors, helicopters. Now, when we are talking about military aviation, it is basically the use of aircraft within military settings. And typically, this kind of transportation is designed to enable aerial warfare or performance surveillance operations. And majority of the military aviation is related to air forces. However, along with this, the concept of army aviation, navy, coast guard aviation also does exist. Now, when we are talking about the scope in India for manufacturing and research, in India, from the public sector, we have the employers such as Hindustan Aeronautics Limited, Indian Space Research Organization, Aeronautical Development Establishment, DRDO, National Aerospace Laboratories, and a couple of more. And in the private companies, we have Tata Advanced System, Taneja Aerospace, Mahindra Aerospace, L&T, and we also in India we have design offices of multinationals like General Electric, Boeing, Airbus. So these have emerged out to be providing significant growth opportunities to engineer over here. And very interesting scenario has come up for India's maintenance, repair and overhaul landscape, which is expected to boom, and especially after COVID, because as per Aerospace and Aviation Sector Skill Council, that comes under National Skills Development Corporation, the government has actually reduced GST on MROs from 18% to 5%. And they have also waived custom duties on tools, kits, spare parts, so that are imported by MROs. So this has really pushed, MROs to come out into this space. Now, up until a few years ago, almost all of our airplanes used to go to Malaysia, Singapore, UAE, or other MRO destinations for repairs and maintenance. But now today, we are able to handle about 25% of that work within this country. But it is expected that in the next 5 to 10 years, we would be able to raise it to 50 to 70%. And that means huge savings in time, fuel, and money for airlines.
Great, great. So that was the question was asked now, Shantanu from Sandeep University. Shantanu, I'm sure you must have got your answer. Questions have started coming in, but before jumping to the question from the audience, there are many questions which are coming. Radhika ma'am, could you please tell us more about what is the required qualification to enter aviation industry, and are these courses aligned with NEP 2020? Over to you.
Absolutely, Mr. Naresh. Thank you. Actually, I would request everybody to buckle up because this is going to be a long answer, as I'm going to be talking about different segments of aviation in detail. And I think this is going to be very interesting for all the students over there. So, when we talk about the civil aviation sector in India, very recently it has become more customer friendly and cost efficient because of the recent reforms in aviation sector. Now, as per Airport Authority of India, it suggests that Indian flyers in both domestic and international flights have increased by more than 500% in the last 5 years. Now, there is no substitute for highly skilled management and technical personnel to manage this huge demand. Now, in order to pursue a job as a cabin crew or ground staff in the aviation industry, students can be from any stream, be it arts, commerce, science, but they should be 12th pass and have good English communication. But people on the same time aspiring to become an engineer or a pilot should have pursued science at the school as well as graduation level. Now, students who have pursued non-science stream and still want to pursue technical field in aviation can take NIOS exam, which is called National Institute of Open Schooling, for conversion of PCM subjects. And this exam takes place multiple times in a year. Now, I would like to list out the different professions in aviation. Let's start with aircraft maintenance engineering. Now, this is a niche 3-year program that mainly deals with maintenance, repair, upgrades, and quality of assurance of an aircraft. And it is this license is approved by DGCA, which is the Directorate General of Civil Aviation in India, and it is recognized internationally by ICAO, which is International Civil Aviation Organization, and that consists of 193 countries. And India is one of the 36 governing member of that council. Now, the main task of an AME is to ensure the safety and protection of the aircraft and passenger. And an AME is responsible to ensure that the aircraft is airworthy, that is, it is operating properly or not before each flight. Now, this is the only authorized position by Government of India. After getting an AME license, the person can carry out maintenance and repairs of aircraft and certify its fitness to fly. So without the signature of an AME, an aircraft cannot take off. And candidates who do want to pursue AME, they must have 12 pass with 50% marks in PCM, or even if they are from an engineering background like BE or BTech, that's also acceptable. Or even 3 years diploma in engineering in one of the following streams is fine: mechanical, electrical, aeronautics, or avionics. And then they can enroll for a AME program. And in AME, we have two different fields. One is mechanical, which covers the aeroplane structure, turbine, mechanical, and electrical systems. And also, it involves working on the avionics system, but not troubleshooting. And the second category, which is the avionics, it covers radio navigation, electrical, and instrument system. And after 3 years, the candidates, they can apply for license after training. And I would also like to say that there are very few educational institutes, and our institute is one of them, in collaboration with Indus University, wherein we offer them BSc honors in aircraft maintenance. So by the end of 3 years, they not only get a certificate, but they also get a degree. So that really opens up their scope to pursue masters at national or global level. And they can also apply for government or high managerial positions with these two things. Now let's move on to pilot training. The educational qualification to be eligible to become a CPL, or as you can call it, a commercial pilot in India, one should be 12th pass with physics and mathematics as subjects, and preferably 50% marks and above. So if you want to acquire a student private pilot license, so for a CPL, you start with a student private pilot license. You can start at the age of 16, and then you move on to private pilot license, which is requires 50 to 60 hours of flying training, and then you can apply for a commercial private license. So that is basically requiring 200 hours of flying at a training school, from which 185 hours flying training is on a single engine aircraft, and the rest 15 hours is on a twin engine aircraft. Now, there's an age limit for CPL. So to qualify or to hold a CPL license, the candidate needs to be 18 years and above. So they can start with their training already when they're 16 or 17 and move on the ladder. Now let's talk about an option for students who are from non-science stream backgrounds. So we have an option in aviation field for management in aviation or airport management. You can do your bachelor's in either of them, and it is a 3-year course which requires an eligibility of 12 pass or equivalent. In this, students learn about airport planning, airport security, passenger forecasting, how the aerodrome works, fire safety, even aviation law, and many other related topics. And after that, students can move on to pursuing their MBA or Masters in Aviation or Airport Management, and that is a 2-year course. Now for students, they can take up a prominent place in top business positions of public and private airlines or government authorities like Airport Authority of India or the Aviation Ministry as well. To get your admission at the master's level, either you can take national level entrance exams like CAT, MAT, GMAT, or the Xavier aptitude test, or some institutes have their own entrance level test as well. Now there are many scopes for a candidate to be able to establish themselves in the position of airline or airport management sectors. I would just like to highlight the difference over here between airport management and aviation management. So airport management basically deals with managing, supervising, and coordination operations and maintenance of an airport. Whereas aviation management manages the operations of the aviation department, ensuring all the maintenance, safety, and scheduling operations are executed effectively. Now, I would also like to highlight over here a very interesting career option, which is of an air traffic controller. Now, what an air traffic controller does is it guides the aircraft for takeoff, landing, en route navigation, and they not only assist flights before taking off and landing from airports, but they also assist planes crossing from the airspace. Now, they also design sequencing of air traffic in the airspace and predetermine routes of arrival and departure from airports around the world. And this also requires monitoring all ground movements of aircraft, takeoffs, landings, handling control monitors for approaching, departing traffic, and also visual observations from the ATC towers and through radars. They also assist pilots in the air and on the ground for all maneuvering right till the end of the plane journey. Now, the eligibility criteria for an ATC in India, one should be having an engineering degree in electronics, telecommunication, radio engineering, electrical, or master's degree in electronics or any discipline with electronics, telecom, radio, as well as if you have specialization of your master's in physics, maths, or computer science with at least 60% or above. That is great. And I would also like to point out over here, any CPL holder with basic knowledge of computers is also preferred for this position. Now moving on to your next question, that is, how is aviation industry aligned with NEP? So when we talk about the new education policy, a lot of fundamental transformations are going to take place in future. such as multidisciplinary skills, multiple exit options. But most important is the skill-based training, which is also known as Lokvitya. No, now, according to recent studies by analysts, it has been suggested that a generation ago, if you acquired a skill about 20, so that would last for about 26 years. But today it is only 4.5 years and dropping. And it has been estimated that by 2030, up to 800 million workers are going to get displaced by robotic automation. Now, with how the pace is changing, stress is also increasing, and greater feeling of irrelevance has been increased. So when we talk about the current setup of a predetermined curriculum, where learning takes place in a very standardized manner, which has led to fragmentation and segmentation of learning. So this has led to a huge gap between, the supply of people in the workforce coming out of educational institutes and credentials to fill for the employers in the organization. To reduce this traditional skill gap, NEP is greatly focusing on skill development. Now, luckily for us, the aviation sector has always been ahead. We always send our students to work in live working environments for practical training, because being in the aviation industry, it requires you to be responsible for the safety of the passengers and aircraft. And all of this is governed by DGCA. It is actually mandatory for us to ensure students train with industry experts. So the biggest challenge right now for us in the human population is not exploitation against humans, but against human irrelevance to the economic and social system. So, which is why constant reinvention of one skill development and technological advance is the topmost priority, and that is the basis of aviation. Thank you.
I understand it was a really long answer, and very, pleased to listen to this. You may have a sip of water. There are many questions, Radhika, which are coming. One question from Rana Kamar and then Debashi Khan. They would like to know, I just clubbed the question together. They would like to know, one of them is from IT industry. Another one has completed his civil engineering, and he doesn't want to do his bachelor again. He wants to know, are there options in the aviation industry for engineers from civil background or IT background?
Yeah, definitely there is. But it really depends. If you want to pursue, you can take up something like masters in aviation or airline management if you want to navigate into the aviation sector. So that is a very good option. Otherwise, for other options such as pilot training and AME training and ATC, you can even take up the scope of ATC for that matter. Because if you do have an engineering background, that would really help you, develop your technical skills for that particular position.
Yeah, thank you, Radhika, for this wonderful answer. There are many laurels are also coming up, and Kuldeep is saying thank you very, very much for this informative session. And my next question to you, and I would like to club this question, which has come from Neil Kantha Sengupta. He and all of us would like to know, what are the key skill sets by which one can think of pursuing a career in aviation industry? And please do tell us what companies and organizations look for in a candidate for different position in aviation industry.
That's a very important question, Mr. Naresh, and because it really does prepare all the students for what they have to face in future. Let's start with what a pilot would require and what are the skill set that they would be requiring in future. So for commercial pilots, they should have an understanding of mathematics and physics, and also an ability to understand technical information, because pilots needs to know how their aircraft work. They should be able to possess excellent spatial awareness skills and coordination, good communication and team working skills. They should also have leadership skills, because with the ability to give clear commands to the cabin crew and passengers. And along with that, they need to be able to think very quickly and have great decision-making skills in very difficult situations, because they need to remain calm under pressure have discipline, self-confidence, and commitment. Let's talk about aircraft maintenance engineering. Why I'm being very specific is because different profession requires different skill set. For an aircraft maintenance engineering, they should have very good mathematical precision, logical skills, and they should also be able to develop good problem solving skills along with communication skills. They need to be very good at organizing, working in teams of cross sectional skills, and also be able to get on with people at all different levels. Now, candidates, they should be able to work diligently and patiently to be able to do their work with utmost precision, because a little mistake can prove very fatal for hundreds of lives on board. And they also require to constantly update themselves with latest maintenance techniques and technologies. They should also be able to apply principles of science and technology to create aircraft components and support equipment. And lastly, but not the least, an AME should be able to resolve issues in quick time, so that they can make the aircraft plane airworthy in time. Now, let's move on to aviation management. So, for a person pursuing aviation management, it would be great if you can have field knowledge, interpersonal skills, and it's best if you also have knowledge of all state and federal related requirements related to airport and airline operations. It's best if you also have analyzing and monitoring skills, and emotional intelligence is wonderful to have in this field. Of course, with all aviation fields, you do require great communication skills, because poor communication skills can lead to even disasters sometimes in this field. And also being able to evaluate information and establish certain facts are the key strengths for people in aviation industry. For example, analyzing a weather change, aviation managers can react accordingly to their experience. And of course, great work ethic is also very rewarding, and having a positive attitude especially when you are a manager. So that's very important. Let's talk about skill set for an air traffic controller. They need to have great interest in aviation industry, good spatial orientation. And what I mean by spatial orientation is visualization of graphic information, because that's the kind of equipment that they have to work on. A good memory, and also be able to think fast and make quick decisions. It's best if you have multitasking ability, should be comfortable with numbers, enjoy working in a team, able to work shifts, be assertive and confident, and of course be able to work under pressure. And along with this, you should have great eyesight and hearing, and excellent health in general, basically. Because the job of an air traffic controller demands intensive training with loads of added responsibility for the safety of hundreds of lives. So if you have hard work, stamina, alertness of mind, and also be able to work different difficult time schedules, and because the responsibility of an ATC, they never get a chance to rectify their mistake if committed during discharging their duties, whereas others can get away with a few. Now let's talk about the requirements for a cabin crew. So it's best if you have a great outgoing personality, because this is a profession where you have to deal with people one-on-one, and being able to handle difficult situations, and ability to be tactful and diplomatic, but also assertive when necessary. And in the field, they also expect you to have commercial awareness and sales skill, and along with that, flexibility in working unsocial hours on any day of the year. And of course, along with this, great communication skills are required.
Somebody is asking, and that's a very worn out question. The Kishore Dake is asking, can boys be the cabin crew? Because most of the time we see the air hostess being female. So his worries is, can boys are eligible for cabin crew jobs?
Of course, absolutely. I'm very happy to share with you that the courses that we're running, we have about 70% boys in our batches. So I think that really answers your question. Basically, the entire course structure and the subjects, they're all very common. But what I can tell you is the grooming sessions differ from men and women.
So, Kishore, I hope you are good to go. So, you can be a cabin crew. All right. So, I would like to take up the next question, which is very important. Radhika, please tell us, how does the career graph looks like for a new entrant once he or she becomes the part of this field, and how does it reflect in remuneration? I mean, how much they can earn. So let me just add one more question, which has come from Shashank from Mysore. He says, how much cost does it incur to become an ATC or a commercial pilot? If you can just answer both the questions, please.
I'll just take it along with different professions. So for CPL, basically you would be requiring a minimum of 30 lakhs investment. And why? Because for CPL training, you require 200 hours of flying, and the cost of the fuel is very high. So, which is why the cost of the course is very high as well. But do not worry, if you do get into CPL, the outcome of the salary structure is also quite high. So let me get more into detail with that. So when by getting a CPL, you can start as a trainee or a co-pilot, and then move on to being a first officer based on one's seniority, flying experience, the number of hours you've completed, and how if you have completed more number of programs as well. After this, one is also eligible to become a commander or a captain, and then after a senior commander. The minimum commercial pilot salary can be from 1.5 lakhs per month to about 7 lakhs for a senior person, such as a commander or a senior commander. But it also depends on the airline and one's flying experience in various private and government owned airlines. And for international airlines, it can range from about 8 to 10 lakhs per month. So, and along with that, there are also very attractive remunerations and incentives, including provident fund, gratuity, medical facilities, and housing as well, and free and concessional air passage for that person and their close family members. Now let's move on to AME. For an AME, once you get a license, you can start off by getting 70,000. And in a matter of your experience and the number of licenses that you acquire on different aircrafts, so that can go up to earning 50 to 70 lakhs per annum. So after being an AME, you can get promoted to a senior AME, and after being a senior AME, you can qualify for a line maintenance manager. And a line maintenance manager can earn up to 2 to 3 lakhs starting with. And if you get to being a base maintenance manager, you can earn up to 5 to 6 lakhs per month. And for an EME, once as and when you clear one aircraft in your license, you can, for each and every license, you can get 20 to 25,000. So that's also a great option. Moving on for management, I think for a BBA aviation, if you do your bachelor's, you can earn up to 4 to 8 lakhs per annum. But that is just at an undergraduate level. But if you do pursue your MBA, so a fresher's salary in this sector can start 5 lakhs per annum, and it can actually go to 15 lakhs per annum generally. Now, when you are pursuing your management in aviation or airport, so the job roles that you can acquire are airport manager, program manager, assistant airport manager, or even an airport operations manager. And if not this, then you can move on to being a market research analyst or a business development executive as well. Let's move on to flight attendant as well. So when they're starting their career as an air hostess or a flight steward, you can get promoted to the post of a senior flight attendant, and ultimately, just one second, please. Yeah, sorry. And yeah, I was just saying that you can get promoted to the post of a senior flight attendant and ultimately to the post of head attendant with the experience and efficiency of their work. Now, when we are talking about the salary structure, it also depends on domestic or international. So you can start with about 35,000 to 70,000 for domestic airlines, and for international it can range up to 50,000 for a fresher to about 2.5 lakhs as a senior cabin crew or a cabin crew in charge, along with a lot of benefits and allowances in addition to housing facilities, medical expenses, outstation allowances, and free or maybe occasional air passages for their immediate family and dependents. And also just addressing that question, what is the investment for ATC? It can be around 2 to 3 lakhs for that.
Yeah, thank you, Radhika, for this elaborative and valid answer. Do you think the employment in the airline industry will decrease because of the massive hit by the COVID? What is your views on this?
Yeah, so just to highlight certain facts and figures about this, actually, because of pandemic, all different sectors have been hit. But when we are talking about the pandemic and the boom that is going to happen post-pandemic, you must have very well witnessed that all different sectors were shut down. But when it comes to aviation industry, it never stopped, because from importing medicines, masks, and other necessary equipment, and also bringing people back to India, aviation did not stop. And even when we are talking about maintenance of aircraft, or so even if the aircrafts are stationary, you do require manpower to take care of those aircrafts. But I would just like to highlight that when we compare Indian aviation industry to the aviation industry at a global level, we are trying to recover faster. And rest assured, yes, times are very tough right now and situation does look grim. But post-pandemic, and once you complete these courses, the amount of salary that you get, I mean, that is very, very rewarding in itself. So if you are thinking about aviation career, think 2 or 3 years down the line and the kind of boom it is going to happen. Because as I mentioned earlier, India is the third largest civil aviation market. So we are expecting a lot of requirement for all technical personnel and even management.
My next question to you, Radhika, we have talked about extensively about Indian industry, Indian aviation industry. Could you please throw some light on the opportunities and scope which is available internationally?
Absolutely, because when we are talking about aviation, it is an industry which can never have a full stop mark, because it's growing and ever evolving, and not just in India but even on an international scale. It has huge profit margins, and with the number of travelers that are increasing at a faster pace, and so is the demand for aviation personnel, national and international. Let me tell you a couple of very interesting things about having scope at international level. So as per International Civil Aviation Organization, ICAO, as I mentioned earlier, you can your AME license and CPL license, they are internationally recognized in 193 countries. And the only requirement by these different countries is the conversion exam, according to the rules and regulation, and they can be completed within a couple of days. So if you have completed your AME or your CPL license is over here, you can take the conversion exam. So for example, in US, we have the Federal Aviation Authority. In Canada and UK, we have the Civil Aviation Authority as well. And apart from that, for international airlines, especially, they do conduct different route sector examination. But that is very specific according to the airlines and their policies. Now, let me tell you about a very interesting field, which is the aerospace engineering. And this is a very, very advanced subject and requires high level of expertise. And this can also give a great exposure at a global level. Now, if you do pursue a course in aerospace engineering, it will enhance your knowledge about both aeronautics and astronautics. Because you will not only learn about aircraft, but you will also learn about spacecraft. Now, let me tell you that India is also rapidly becoming very involved in space research, but it would take another 5 to 10 years for these fields and their scope to expand domestically. So, talking about the scope abroad, there are immense opportunities for aerospace engineers in countries like US, France, UK, Germany, and even when we talk about NASA, which is a US federal government agency responsible for aerospace and aeronautical research, they have a good number of engineers of Indian origin working with them. So, the salary offered in this field in India, it can be from 6 to 7 lakhs per year. But it also depends on the level of academic qualification and experience. But when you're talking about what could be the average salary for aerospace engineers abroad, it can go up to 50 to 60 lakhs per year. So I think one important point, actually two important points I would like to highlight here. Many of you must be wondering what is the difference between aircraft maintenance engineer and an aeronautical or aerospace engineer. So AME, they are trained to qualify to inspect an aircraft for any kind of snags and solve if there are any. It basically handles the maintenance work of an aircraft, including its engine, electrical and communication systems. Now, when we talk about an aeronautical or an aerospace engineer, it basically deals with the design, manufacturing and testing of an aircraft, be it engine or any other components. And an aeronautical engineer, it also tends to focus on flight activities within an atmosphere, which is a more dedicated field of aerospace. And other than that, when we talk about aerospace, so that basically involves atmosphere, but it also extends into applications in space where there is no atmosphere. So, yeah, I thank you for that question, Mr. Naresh.
Yeah, thank you, Radhika. So I would like to thank you very, very much, Radhika, for this insightful discussion. Now I request you to please fold in some of your key and actionable takeaways for our audience.
Absolutely. I think more than anything, we should ask ourselves a question that how to live in a world where, there's so much of uncertainty everywhere and you can hardly afford stability. So I would like to mention over here that it has been said by a very noted scholar whose name is Yuval Noah Harari, that the biggest necessity in the 21st century is to develop your emotional intelligence, mental balance and mental resilience, because this is really required to keep up with the hectic world of aviation and to keep reinventing yourself to stay ahead of all the technological advancements. Self-awareness and self-knowledge requires skills outside of work, and what I had mentioned earlier as well. These are very important aspects of a nature that contribute outside the monetary value to the society. And because there's great uncertainty about how the future will unfold, which is why mental robustness is really required to deal with failures. Because as humans, we are hardwired to always look for certainty, stability, and patterns. And as we know that the world is in flux, our core is what we know, around which we build our surroundings. Because core skills never change, only the peripheral skills change. So don't play with fundamental skills, but upgrade those peripheral skills. Become quality conscious, and work with accuracy to avoid human error, as it is very important to achieve perfection in aviation field. And just one last sentence: there is no dearth of opportunities, as it is a very skill-based field. The one who possesses the dexterity to survive will be paid well. Thank you.
A very big and special thank to Ms. Radhika Bhandari for taking out her valuable time for the session. We have really enjoyed the session, Radhika. It was really full of information. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Narration. Thank you to your entire team for this opportunity. I thoroughly enjoyed being here.
Yeah, thank you very much.